By the summer of 1940, Switzerland found itself completely surrounded. To the north and west, Nazi Germany had conquered France. To the south, Mussolini's Italy stood firm in alliance with Hitler. To the east, Austria had long since been absorbed into the Third Reich. Switzerland, small and defiant, remained an island of neutrality in a Europe almost entirely under Axis control. It was a situation that seemed untenable. How could a tiny nation hope to survive when the most powerful war machine the world had ever seen had swallowed almost all of its neighbors? The Swiss were right to be nervous. Behind closed doors, in the halls of the German High Command, an invasion plan had been drawn up. Its name, Operation Tannenbaum, the German word for Christmas tree. Tannenbaum was to be a brutal, overwhelming invasion designed to crush Switzerland's resistance in days. It was a plan that, if executed, would have changed the course of Swiss history forever. And yet it never happened. The question is, why? Operation Tannenbaum was first conceived in the early months of 1940, shortly after Germany's lightning-fast victories in Poland and France. Hitler, believing that the war in the West was all but won, began considering what to do about Switzerland. To him, it was an annoying relic, a neutral state that had no place in his new European order. His generals, meanwhile, saw Switzerland as a strategic problem. It sat in the center of Europe, controlling vital trade routes, Alpine passes, and key banking institutions. The Nazis knew that Switzerland was important, but they weren't sure whether it was more useful conquered or left alone. Despite this uncertainty, Hitler gave his generals the order to plan an invasion. The Swiss would be given no chance to surrender. It would be an all-out attack, aimed at destroying resistance in one swift blow. The plan was ambitious. A force of nearly 500,000 German and Italian troops would storm the country from all sides. The primary attack would come from Germany in the north, with secondary assaults from occupied France in the west and Italy in the south. Swiss cities, including Zurich, Bern, and Geneva, were identified as primary targets, to be taken quickly before the Swiss had a chance to retreat into the Alps. The Nazis fully expected to win. Switzerland was small and outnumbered, with an army less than a quarter the size of Germany's invasion force. But Hitler and his commanders knew one thing: this would not be as easy as France, Poland, or the Low Countries. Unlike those nations, Switzerland had been preparing for this war for years. They had fortified their mountains, trained their soldiers, and ensured that any invasion would be met with fierce resistance. For the Swiss, survival depended on one thing: convincing Hitler that an invasion was not worth the cost. The Swiss government had already mobilized 430,000 soldiers, nearly 10% of the population, one of the largest military call-ups in the world at the time. But the Swiss knew that a conventional battle would be a disaster. If they fought the Germans in open fields, they would be overrun in days. So instead, they relied on something even more powerful: geography. The Swiss had developed the Reduit Strategy, a defensive plan that, in the event of an invasion, would see the entire army retreat into the Alps, turning the mountains into an impregnable fortress. Roads, bridges, and tunnels leading into the mountains were rigged with explosives. Swiss artillery was positioned to rain fire on enemy troops from above. The German forces would have to fight their way up steep, unfamiliar terrain, all while the Swiss launched guerrilla-style attacks from hidden positions. For every mile the Nazis advanced, they would pay a heavy price. The Nazis knew this. In fact, Hitler himself had doubts. He had seen firsthand what happened to armies that tried to conquer mountainous terrain. His forces were already bogged down in Norway's mountains. Switzerland, with its countless defensive bunkers, trained sharpshooters, and well-prepared militia, would be an even tougher challenge. An invasion might succeed, but at what cost? While German generals debated the military feasibility of an invasion, Hitler faced another problem. Switzerland was useful to the Nazi regime. For one, Switzerland's banking system played a key role in Nazi financial operations. Swiss banks held gold, foreign currency, and assets stolen from occupied territories, allowing the right to keep funds flowing despite the war. If Germany invaded, these banks could simply freeze or destroy those assets, causing significant economic disruption for the Nazis. Moreover, Switzerland's neutrality allowed it to act as a back channel for diplomacy. Secret negotiations between Nazi officials, the Allies, and various resistance movements often took place in Swiss cities. While Hitler despised diplomacy, some of his top advisors saw Switzerland as a valuable middleman between warring factions. Then there was the issue of public perception. Unlike Poland or France, Switzerland had no history of aggression toward Germany. It was not an enemy state, and its invasion would not be seen as a military necessity. Instead, it would look like an act of pure aggression, one that might provoke even more resistance across Europe. A successful invasion could also inspire anti-Nazi uprisings elsewhere, as people saw Switzerland's resistance as a symbol of defiance. With all these factors at play, Hitler did something surprising. He hesitated. Operation Tannenbaum remained on paper, never given final approval. The Nazis kept their forces stationed along the Swiss border, using the threat of invasion to keep the Swiss in line. But the attack itself never came. Had Hitler given the order, Switzerland would have faced its greatest test. Some historians believe that, despite its defenses, Switzerland would have fallen within weeks. Others argue that the country's rugged terrain, combined with its well-trained military, could have made occupation too costly and prolonged for Germany. One thing is certain: if the invasion had happened, it would have been bloody. There is also the question of whether Switzerland could have continued to function as a neutral state under occupation. The Swiss government had contingency plans to relocate to underground bunkers and keep fighting. Some speculate that the Swiss might have formed a long-term insurgency, similar to resistance movements in occupied France or Yugoslavia. But without outside support, their struggle would have been difficult. In the end, Switzerland remained free, not because Hitler lacked the ability to invade, but because he lacked the will. The risk was too high, the rewards uncertain. The Nazi war machine turned its attention elsewhere, and Switzerland continued its delicate balancing act between survival and neutrality. But the danger was far from over. Just because Switzerland wasn't invaded didn't mean it wasn't deeply involved in the war. Its neutrality was tested again and again, and its economic and diplomatic choices would later be scrutinized by the world. In the next episode, we explore the secrets of Swiss espionage, how spies from every major power used Switzerland as their battleground, and how the Swiss intelligence network became one of the most important in World War II.